Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Voices of a Killer. Today we bring you the tragic case of Freda Heyn. The last time anyone remembered seeing 68-year-old Freda Heyn alive was on November 3rd, 2003 at the post office in Oldfield, Missouri. 6 months after she went missing, a couple out running fire trails in the Mark Twain National Forest discovered a skull and called authorities. Medical examiners positively identified the skull as belonging to Freda Heyn, and a murder case was opened. Detectives began questioning residents who lived near Freda's trailer, including then 36-year-old Paula Hall. Paula had been romantically involved with David Epperson, who was renting a house from Freda's son-in-law. In 2006, prosecutors charged Paula Hall, her ex-brother-in-law Billy Wayne Hall, and David Epperson with murder in the case after Freda's DNA was matched to the crime scene thanks to a domestic assault of his girlfriend. In 2009, a jury convicted Paula Hall of second-degree murder, but that conviction was overturned by the Missouri Court of Appeals in 2013 and Paula walked free. However, today, Paula joins us, still from behind bars. On this episode, we'll talk to Paula about what exactly happened in the case of Freda Heyn, why she was able to find justice, and why she is still behind bars today. So sit back and listen closely as we explore this mystery on Voices of a Killer.
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from
Paula.
an offender at the Chillicothe Correctional Center.
This call is from a correctional facility and may be monitored and recorded.
To accept charges, press 1. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hey, what's up? Paula, did you grow up in Missouri?
Yeah, Springfield.
Springfield, okay. What was your childhood like growing up?
My family was real well-to-do.
Really? What'd they do?
My dad worked for Levi, and my mom was the house mother.
Okay.
She stayed home.
Did you have like a privileged childhood where you got anything you wanted?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anything negative growing up?
My brother molested me when I was a kid.
Like an older brother?
Yeah.
Did your parents know about it?
Well, I don't know if they knew or not. I think they it was better out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So did you get into drugs at a young age?
Yeah, I got into drugs when I was I was probably 10 or 11 when I smoked my first joint.
Yeah. What about hard drugs?
I got into cocaine and crank when I was about 13, 14.
Was that the time that you basically kind of took off and became a drug addict?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing you did as a child before you became an adult? Besides doing drugs, did you commit any crimes?
I got in trouble for not going to school a lot.
Yeah. So you have a unique situation because you're in prison right now, but not for murder, but you were in prison for murder. However, you were let off with a second trial. So I want to go back to the time that you were the age when this crime happened, which would be 2003, right? Actually, I'm looking at this wrongly convicted database record, and it says year crime 2003, year convicted 2009, year cleared 2013.
Okay, there you go.
All right, unless it's inaccurate. It doesn't mean it's accurate, but that's what's on the internet. It's forjustice.org. So you got justice. You're on a website called forjustice.org. So you actually are probably set a precedence in court. Your name is going to be synonymous with whatever you got off on, what was the technicality?
I got off on wrong book. The technicality was the lady said said that I did it, and so we proved that in court. When my lawyer asked her what she was getting out of it, we proved that she was getting a deal.
Oh, she was in trouble
Yeah,
and she was trying to cut a deal with them. So is that something you can't do?
yeah, right. And not when you're asking a trial, you have to be honest about it.
Okay, gotcha. Well, so here's the deal. 2003, what kind of person were you back then? Same kind of person you are now?
No,
Because you're in prison for stealing, right?
yeah,
So you got out of prison on a technicality for murder, and then you went back for stealing. So what's going on with you?
my husband passed away 5 years ago, and I kind of went crazy again.
Drugs?
Yeah.
So in 2003, what kind of person were you? What's the difference between then and now?
Well, I'm a better person now because I'm not in here for murder, number one, and number two, I read my Bible and I'm getting back to the Word of God more.
Okay.
Helping me.
So let me ask you a question. Do you feel like you really do play a part in the murder and you just got off, or you got off because you really didn't play a part in it?
I did not play a part in it, but I was there.
Paula Hall's journey is seriously a wild one. Born to a well-to-do family and having everything she wanted as a child, she soon found that the troubles she experienced as a kid could be forgotten in the world of drugs. But little did she know that this would be the start of her downward spiral. According to her book, Open Gate to God's Grace, the Paula Hall story published in 2014, Paula was not only sexually assaulted by her brother at age 9, but soon became addicted to meth at the age of 11. And by 13 years old, she was prostituting herself to sustain her habit and soon fell pregnant. Abused, beaten, and battered, by 2003, Paula had lived an eventful life that eventually led to her living in the trailer not far from Freda Heyn's trailer near Oldfield, Missouri.
Okay, so in 2003, you were not the person you probably wanted to be, I'm assuming. Were you hanging out with the co-defendants, which is David Epperson? Do you know him?
Yeah, Bill Hall wasn't there. Bill Hall was not there.
Who's Bill Hall?
He's one of the people that got arrested for the murder too.
Is he locked up?
Yeah, he was locked up for it, and whenever I was exonerated and wrongfully convicted, then he got off too.
He did. He got off too. So who's the killer?
Dave Epperson and Willie Baker.
They two people killed. Both took part in it physically.
Yes,
So who's the other person you said? It's David Epperson, and what's the other one?
Willie Baker.
Okay, so first let's start with David Epperson. How do you know him before this?
I cleaned for him, and I had sex with him a couple times.
Yeah. And then you did drugs with him and sex and work and stuff. So what about Willie Baker? What's your relationship with him? Same thing?
No, he's my second husband's uncle,
Okay.
and he was living down there with me at the time.
So let me ask you a question. These two people, either one of them, when I ask you this question, you can apply to either or both. Would you say these are, and this is prior to the murder, would you say these are sinister people? They just had a bad side to them. You felt something, or are you just normal people that did drugs?
No, they had a bad side
Why do you say that?
because I could tell.
Tell me how would you, guess that before the murder?
Well, Willie had one eye, and he wasn't very nice about things when he got mad. And Dave Epperson had hit his kids in front of me. And I took his teenage daughter home with me because he had hit on her.
So he was violent. Both of them were violent people?
Yeah, definitely.
Like violent enough to where it really wasn't a surprise that they murdered somebody?
Right.
In 2003, Paula was romantically involved with David Epperson, who was renting a house from Paula Heyn's son-in-law. The house was about a mile down the same road where Paula Heyn's trailer was located. According to news reports at the time, Freda Heyn was described as a nice woman who made no enemies in her life, and she was very religious. She was married to her husband Fred for 47 years, but they were separated in the last 3 years. Still, Fred and Freda Heyn remained in touch and had spent camping trips together with their grandchildren since their separation. Fred described Freda as a very gentle woman. David Epperson, on the other hand, was a more rough-around-the-edges type of character. Not much is out there about David prior to the incident, but we do know that he used meth and pot since he was 18. From the outside, Paula and David just looked like casual drug users. Paula would stay at Freda's farmhouse property that she rented, looking after David's kids, while David went to his rock removal job in Branson nearby. However, the reality was that David ran a meth lab in the same trailer park where he and Paula lived. We also know that David was a violent person. Domestic abuse often goes hand in hand with drug addiction, and unfortunately for Paula, she found herself dependent on a supplier of meth that was not only violent towards his own kids, but towards her too. Eventually, the couple split because of this. Willie Baker, on the other hand, seems to be something of a ghost in this case. There is only one mention of him in all the court documents available online, and that's during the testimony of one witness who says he helped to move Freda's body after the murder. So this accusation that Willie was the killer is something that we have to take with a pinch of salt from Paula. According to David's original testimony, one afternoon in late 2003, he returned home from work from a rock removal job in Branson, where he found Paula, his former girlfriend, folding laundry and pacing back and forth in the home he rented from Freda's son-in-law. David then said that Paula told him that Freda Heyn had seen the meth lab and was going to warn the police. Shortly after, Paula's former brother-in-law, Billy Wayne Hall, went to Freda Heyn's house with a handgun. The reality of the situation was that according to court documents, Paula had caught David and Billy cooking methamphetamine, and they feared she would rat on them to authorities. However, there is another twist to this story that Paula hasn't told anyone until now. We'll find that out after the break.
So the day that this happened, well, actually, the victim, why did they, who would want her dead? Why?
Well, what happened, her husband wanted her dead. What happened is that she was wanting a divorce, and they'd been married 14 years, or they'd been married 40-some years, and 14 years they'd been separated. Well, she told him she wanted a divorce, and so he paid Willie and Dave to kill her.
Did you know about the payment?
No, I did not until after I was off. I didn't know that there was any money transferred. I didn't know anything was going to happen like this.
What was your relationship with the victim, Freda?
Well, I dated her son, and I lived in her and her husband's farmhouse at the time.
Oh, you lived on her property then?
Yeah.
How was your relationship with her, though? Did you like her?
Yeah, I liked her a lot. She was a good person. We went to garage sales together. We went to all different kinds of things together.
So, and this murder took place in her trailer, Freda's?
Yeah.
And why were you in Freda's trailer?
Well, I was there. I went in the car, and I didn't know where we were going. And Dave Epperson and Willie Baker pulled into Freda's driveway. And they left me in the car. They went inside. Well, I was like, what's going on? So I got out of the car and went inside. And when I did is when I saw all this go down.
According to Paula, it was Freda Heyn who paid David Epperson and Willie Baker to kill Freda Heyn. This accusation is a shocking twist in the tragic case of Freda's death. Yes, Fred and Freda were estranged, but there was no evidence that their relationship was acrimonious. By all other accounts, their relationship was still very friendly after their split, and they even went on holidays together with their grandchildren. If David and Willie were really paid off to kill Freda Heyn, it would have been very serendipitous with the meth lab being run from the property that Freda owned. We also have to ask ourselves, why would Paula bring up this information now? Especially after she was acquitted of this crime in 2013, over 11 years ago. Nevertheless, Freda met a grisly and tragic end, and we'll discover exactly how much of a role Paula played in that on the next episode of Voices of a Killer. If you want to find out what happens next, right now, you can sign up at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you can find bonus content, early access, ad-free listening, and access to our chat community. So go to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to sign up now. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you. That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer. A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.